I'm not kidding when I tell you I've watched hundreds and hundreds of videos about how to glow up, how to be the best version of yourself, and I was left disappointed at every single one of them for a few reasons. But the most important one is because I felt like they weren't covering the topics that needed to be covered. So in this video, I'm talking about all of it. And this is not your mainstream advice that you've heard time and time again. We are talking about things that are going to make you uncomfortable, things you might disagree with, things you might hate me for, but the truth of the matter is that these are things you need to know. Let's get into it. I think we're living in one of the most toxic, saddest times of modern dating. Dating apps are so prevalent where you can just go on Hinge and Tinder and swipe away and meet someone, and then you're convinced that these people want to commit to you, but they don't. And then there's 15 and 16-year-old girls who think going on OnlyFans and showing off their body is a form of sexual liberation, and that just blows my mind. And I'm not here to judge your decisions. Like, you can do what you want, but my problem is that women are so quick to blame men, and I don't see enough accountability from women. Feminism was once about equality, everyone given the same rights in the workplace, everyone being granted the same opportunities. And now I feel like it's turned into a dynamic where so many women are mistaking empowerment for sexual exploitation. And that is what I have a problem with, because you may think it's fine right now, but then when you go ahead and you blame the outer world for your lack of dating partners, for your lack of commitment, you're not looking at yourself. You're just blaming the entire world for what your actions are. We live in a world where there's a double standard. If men go ahead and they sleep with every woman, they're a champ. If a woman does the same, she's a slut. Okay, we know that's the fact of the matter. We know there's a double standard, but the problem is that too many women spend their time trying to fight the double standard by trying to act like men instead of just playing the game the way it's actually healthier. Even though you think it's a double standard, that could probably be the biggest blessing of your entire life, because it forces you to ask yourself if you want to have self-respect. Because at the end of the day, I promise you that the men who are truly worth your time are not spending their time at the bar, on Tinder, on Hinge, swiping and going on dates every other night with a girl. They are not doing that. They are so busy focusing on their own life, their own growth, their own mission, their own well-being, that they have no time to engage in those acts. And so the problem arises when you think you have to act a certain way because you see all of your friends acting like that, only to realize that the people you're taking advice from are the ones who have the worst life. And I know this sounds really harsh, but this is the truth you just need to hear, because the last thing you want is to be fed a lie until you're 35, only to realize that everything you've been fed about modern dating, about feminism, about relationships, about the nuclear family was all a lie. I remember in college, there was so much pressure. You see all the girls going on dates and hooking up with random people, and you think that that's the way you're supposed to be, only to realize that there is so much power in preserving your own mystery, in having the self-respect to be the one who makes the choice, about knowing what you want and what you value and not being afraid to communicate that. Because the problem is that so many women are afraid to communicate. They assume the intentions of the other person, and then when they don't match up, they say, oh, he's a liar, he was just using me. Like, maybe you just didn't communicate what you want clearly. The most attractive women are the ones who value themselves. They value their body, their energy, their resources, their time, and they don't give it away to just anyone. And in my opinion, what bothers me the most is that a lot of female self-help is like all about being yourself, that you don't have to change who you are, that you're perfect just the way you are, that it's other people who aren't the shit. But if you look at male self-improvement, it's entirely the opposite. It's them saying you're not shit, you better put the work in, you better become the man that you know you can be. And it's actually way more pragmatic. But for women, it's disguised as you're perfect just the way you are. And the problem with that is that it fools you into thinking that you are perfect the way you are and that everyone else is wrong except you. There are so many things about the way women are conducting themselves that are completely influencing the type of men they attract, the kind of women they are, and the kind of self-respect and power they have. And I think a lot of it comes down to how you're engaging with people these days. That is why we need to get into how to do that, which leads me to part 2, which is identity and skills. Here's the thing. You cannot be the woman of your dreams and become the woman everyone is obsessed with if you don't believe you are that woman. That is why I always tell people that there is nothing wrong with having a superiority complex. That's the first point. I spent so much of my life convincing myself that other people were better than me. Oh, you're white? I'm brown. Something's wrong with me. Oh, you're smarter, you're better than me. Oh, you're prettier, you're better than me. And even though I felt this way, I always knew deep down there was more to me. I always loved being on camera, even though I was super shy and insecure. So I was in musical theater and I danced for 15 years. And that, I think, really opened me up. It gave me an outlet to really express myself and find myself. That was when I realized that if I don't look at me as the most badass person that I can be, why would someone else? And that means that you have to develop a superiority complex. Because when you have a complex that makes you believe that you deserve more than other people, now you will perform at that level. There is nothing wrong with wanting more out of your life, whether that's a stronger relationship, whether that's more money, whether that's a dream body. And so much of society will convince you as a woman to believe that you're selfish for doing that you're selfish for prioritizing yourself. You're not. So number one is to develop a superiority complex so that you can act as that person you know you are inside. But how do you do that? How do you do that when you have so many insecurities? Well, that's point number two, to flaunt your flaws like a billionaire. Because at the end of the day, no matter how amazing you are, not everyone is going to choose you. You could have the most innovative idea. Not everyone's going to believe it. You could have the most pure, kind-hearted energy. Not everyone's going to respect it. You could have the most attractive face. Not everyone's going to agree with it. And that is life. That is why a woman who everyone is obsessed with is a woman who can admire and appreciate herself. As cliche as that sounds. Anyway, let's get into number two, which is this. Great minds discuss ideas. Average minds discuss events. Small minds discuss people. I remember growing up when I was at school or I was at family events with my family, the one thing I always noticed, and my mom did too, was that women gossip so much. And for a long time, it gave me a very negative view about women in general because I was struggling to find women who weren't like this, who didn't want to discuss other people, who wanted to have deeper, non-superficial conversations. And I could never find that because even in college, I always felt like I could never connect with the girls my age. No one wanted to have conversations about life, about philosophy, about deeper shit. That gave me a very negative view about women, as shitty as that sounds, because I never had that strong group. And it wasn't until I got a little bit older and I cut all those people off that I realized that if your friends spend their time talking about other people, those friends will burn you down so hard. Because at the end of the day, the people who you want to be around will never be talking about other people because they are so focused on themselves, on their vision, on their growth, on their identity, on their evolution. And now when they do hang out with other people, it is always a conversation that elevates each other. It's never a conversation that berates or belittles. And so if you're in an environment where your friends are just so quick to gossip and talk and you're sick of it, you in your heart already know how much of a fuck up it is to be around those people. The question is if you're gonna take the leap to let go of them. Majority of people won't because they're scared, they're afraid to be alone, they're afraid of solitude. But the truth of the matter is that you don't grow unless you go through a phase where you're deep in solitude. Because the more conscious you become, the fewer people you resonate with. And that is why if you wanna be a woman, a person who everyone is obsessed with, have a friend group and a community who talks about ideas. And the best part is that we live in a generation where you can now build communities online until you find the right people to be around. I mean, that's what I did for so long. That is why I built a brand in the first place, because I needed people to connect with. I needed people who just understood my ideologies and who gave me the space to flourish as I was finding myself. All right, this third point is super important, and it's all about what it means to be an ambitious woman. I think ambition is one of the most sexiest qualities anyone could ever have. And I think the thing about being ambitious is that we often think it means you need to strive to climb to the corporate ladder, you need to be a multimillionaire, you need to quit your job. And that is not how I view ambition. I view ambition as a person who has a purpose that they're working towards. Maybe it's you want to better your body. Maybe it's that you want deeper relationships. Maybe you want to develop a hobby of gardening. It's something that is guiding your decisions every day, and it has nothing to do with monetary value necessarily. And so my point is that as a woman, a lot of us fall into two categories. There's some of us who really have vision and we want to go after it, but then there's this other group of women who want someone to save them. The problem with striving for that lifestyle is that you develop no skill of your own. What happens when that man leaves you? What happens when that man gets sick and dies? If you had no backbone, no foundation of your own to build on, You relied on someone else. You became completely dependent on another person. I believe that a woman who is truly admirable is a woman who's ready, who's willing to build a foundation of her own. Because now when you are in a relationship with someone, you have value beyond yourself. You have deeper conversations to talk about. You have moments of synergy where now you can integrate with that other person and you can build something even better together. Because you could be ambitious and still be in your feminine. And I think that is a big misconception a lot of women struggle with. It's like how to balance both. It's just about knowing how to bring both out at the right time. The next point is don't be afraid of being too much. I remember growing up when I was in school, a lot of boys would be like, oh, like her voice is so high pitched, like she's annoying, oh, she thinks she's all that. Even girls would say this. And all that did was fool me into thinking that being too much and being myself was wrong. What does too much even mean? Too much laughing, too much energy, too much opinion, too loud, too tall, too confident, too worthy? Because oftentimes the people who call you too much are just being too little. And so instead of them acknowledging it, what do they want you to do? They want you to be smaller. They want you to be more quiet. They want you to be shy. Does that make them feel better about themselves? Evidently so. I've gotten comments on reels that have gone viral saying I'm too much and I'm too annoying. I brush them off. I brush them off so hard, even though they used to bother me so much, because I had to ask myself, like, why does this person telling me I'm too much bother me? Am I hurting that person? Am I assaulting that person? No. I'm just being me. Let's get into my next point. When you walk into a room, you got to assume like God sent you there. And this is a really good networking tip actually, because a lot of the times when we admire someone, whether that's online or offline, we tend to put them on a pedestal. We assume that this person is a superhuman, that we're nothing like them. And so when our interactions are with them, we begin to look very desperate. I live in Miami and I've been to so many conferences where I've met so many celebrities. And when I was younger and I would go to these events, I would get so shy. I'd be like, oh my God, this guy is so successful. This girl's so successful. Like, what do I say? Like, I want to make sure this person likes me. And it's like the moment I came out with that kind of energy, I instantly told myself that this person is a superhuman and I'm nothing like them. That somehow they're above me and I need to make sure I know that they're above me so that I can plan accordingly. I can act accordingly. I switched that shit around so fast because I knew it was holding me back. Because at the end of the day, when you walk into a room and you assume like God sent you there, your whole energy changes, my friend. Your whole magnetism changes. Now when you enter a room, people want to talk to you. Now this point ties perfectly with the last point of this section, which is to start being a person you want to be around. Becoming the woman that you want to be around forces you to ask yourself, what are your principles? What do you value? That is why if you don't have clarity about what that most admirable version of you looks like, you'll start looking at the environment around you to tell you who you should be like. That means you gotta force yourself to spend so much time alone. I spend so much time on myself. Like, I literally do not go out except to the gym. I only go if I think it's worth my time because I'm so selective about the people I surround myself with. And some could call that egotistical. Maybe it is. No. Actually, I take that back. It's not. I just prioritize myself. I know what drains me and gives me energy, and I know the people who can do that. But I also know what gives me the most energy, and that is myself. And that is why I can go to the movies by myself. I can go to lunch by myself. I can go record by myself. And so many women are afraid of that. And no wonder they go on Tinder apps and they swipe away. No wonder they're always distracting themselves with cheap dopamine because they're so afraid of what it means to be by themselves that they have to resort to getting attention from somewhere. And oftentimes that attention is not a healthy form. So in order to be a person you want to be around, you have to start enjoying your own company. All right, let's get into part 3, which is all about charisma and influence. The first tip is that you can be kind and assertive. So speak your mind. A lot of us are so afraid to speak our mind, especially on social media. I remember there was a phase in my life where I was so afraid to stir the pot of saying what's really on my mind, even if it was controversial or politically an ideology that some people wouldn't agree with. And so the version of me that I was online was completely different from the version of me I was inside. And there was always this dichotomy and this dissociation that gave me so much discomfort. I ended up realizing that the people I gravitate to the most are the ones who are so candid and provocative about their ideas. They speak what's on their mind. They're so disruptive. And if you look at the people you admire, the reason they've gotten such a big platform is because of that very reason. It's because they weren't afraid to stir the pot. And that is a quality that I think a lot of women should strive to adopt, because at the end of the day, you can be kind and assertive. You can be polarizing and sweet. That is a goal we have to develop as women, that strong self-agency, where now we can speak our truth in our mind and we don't have to worry about other people throwing punches at us because our muscles are so strong. The second point to building influence is to make others feel like they are the prize. Most of us, when we talk to people for the first time, we focus on how to make ourselves look the best. How do we impress them? How do we get them to like me? But in reality, it's the worst thing you can do. Because if you look at some of the most successful people, they always put the spotlight on other people. They are the one asking other people questions. They are the ones making other people feel seen and appreciated and heard. Because now it wakes them up. It helps them connect with themselves. It helps them see themselves in a whole different way. And now whenever they look at you, they're going to associate you with those good feelings because you're revealing hidden aspects of themselves that they haven't even acknowledged. That is the most powerful form of influence you can have. The next point to building your influence is to be receptive and not combative. I remember a few months ago, I was scrolling on Instagram and I came across this video by Ballerina Farm, Hannah Nealman. If you don't know her, I think everyone knows her. In the video, she was contouring her face with this contour concealer that she was working with a brand for. And I was just on the comment section, right? Because I noticed that like when she was putting on her contour, she was kind of going a little bit lower than her cheekbone. And if you love makeup, you know that like you're technically supposed to go a little bit higher than your cheekbone to get that chiseled look. And so I went in the comment section to see if like anyone noticed this. And I was so shocked at the comment section. It was literally just a bunch of people saying, oh my God, you didn't contour your face the right way. Like you look horrible, blah, 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 blah. And there was this one comment that caught my eye. And she said to Hannah, and she was like, your makeup looks so good, you're so gorgeous. Just one suggestion. There's this makeup artist that helped me with my makeup once, and she told me that you should put your concealer a little bit over your cheekbone so that you get that chiseled, really snatched look. And the way she communicated it was so non-combative. It was so graceful. And in the middle of thousands of hate comments, that one stood out to me because the amount of women who don't know how to communicate constructive criticism without being a negative Nancy just shocks my mind. And this goes for men too. Like if we see something we disagree with, we're so quick to attack that person, to be so emotionally reactive instead of finding a way to empathetically communicate something you disagree with. I see this all the time in the media, in the culture, in the politics, all of it. And so that is why my point is to be more receptive and not combative. And this goes for your relationships too, right? Like if your man always leaves the toilet seat down and you just go up to your man and you're like, you are so disgusting. You never do what I say. You don't respect me. I always have to do everything by myself. Do you see that combative tone? Like how on earth do you expect a man to give a shit about your needs if you don't give a shit about being nice to people? No matter what you say or do, if you impose your beliefs on other people in a forceful tone, you will not get anyone to want to listen to you. And that's the problem with our society. We are so quick to label things as right or wrong that we don't look at the nuance of a conversation anymore. That is why we have a reputation as women of being so emotionally reactive and not logical. And that is what I hope you get out of this point. It's that you got to get rid of that reputation. You have to be pragmatic. You have to be calm and logical so that other people are more receptive to hearing you. But if you jump to the defense, if you attack other people for disagreeing with you, you look like the dumbass. You look like the literal dumbass because you have no emotional intelligence. That is why a woman who everyone is obsessed with has solution-oriented thinking. They don't go on unhinged rants, they don't make accusatory statements, and they don't shame others into silence. That concludes this video. If you enjoyed this and you want to see more of me, make sure you like and subscribe and turn on your post notifications. You can follow me on Instagram. You can check out the podcast. You can join the newsletter. All of that is linked down below. But I love you guys and I will see you in my next video.